She's defective. She's a defective person. And we don't need another defective person as President of the United States. We just had that.
I think that there has been a certain backward-thinking approach over the last several years, which is to suggest, them folks, to suggest that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, instead of what we know. The true measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up.
With less than 10 weeks remaining for the upcoming US presidential elections, the race to the White House is becoming extremely close. Vice President Kamala Harris is maintaining a narrow lead nationally over her Republican challenger, former President Donald Trump. These surveys were conducted after President Joe Biden's exit from the 2024 presidential race and after the Democratic convention, which happened in Chicago in the third week of August. Some of these polls have also been conducted after Trump managed to get two key endorsements, first from independent Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and then later Democrat-turned-Trump supporter Tulsi Gabbard. But neither endorsement seems to have been able to move the needle decisively in favor of Trump. Polls and surveys have changed significantly while closing the gap on issues where the Republican candidate Donald Trump has been leading. At the same time, the polls also seem to be maintaining a narrow margin for Democratic candidate Kamala Harris nationally, a margin which is very much within the scope of error. The polls are reflecting the changing mindset of American voters since President Biden was running for a second term, when former President Trump was leading in the polls with a narrow edge. But since Biden dropped out, the results of these polls have also seen a slight shift. In fact, in the latest Reuters Ipsos poll, Harris's 4-point lead amongst registered voters marks an increase. She had a 1-point lead over the former president back in late July, which was when the previous Reuters Ipsos poll happened. This latest poll, which was conducted by Reuters over an 8-day period ending last week, with a margin of 2 points, which is very much within the scope of error, shows Harris gaining support among two key demographics, women and Hispanic voters. Harris leads Trump 49% to 36%. That's a 13% margin, both amongst women and among Hispanic voters. These are two key voting groups that Harris's campaign is going all in on for November. Across 4 different Reuters polls conducted in July and later on in August, Harris held a 9-point lead among women and a 6-point lead among Hispanics. However, Trump remains ahead amongst white voters, particularly white men, with margins that are similar to those he held in July. Although his lead among voters who do not have a university degree has narrowed to 7 points in the latest survey, that is down from 14 points that it was in July. The latest Wall Street Journal poll shows Vice President Harris leading nationally with 48% of support of registered voters, and Trump remains at 47%. Another poll by Quinnipiac University shows Kamala Harris enjoying 49% support and Trump slightly behind at 48%. One outlier poll by Suffolk University in USA Today suggests that Kamala Harris is ahead with 48% support base, while Trump is left behind at 43%, while 9% are undecided voters. That is the only poll so far which has given a substantial lead nationally to Kamala Harris. This poll indicates that Harris's popularity is eclipsing Trump's earlier gains when Biden was his main challenger. The findings of these latest polls highlight the shifting landscape of the US presidential race over the summer. President Joe Biden, at 81, ended his faltering campaign in the third week of July after a very poor debate performance against Trump, which led to widespread calls from his fellow Democrats to withdraw from the re-election. Since then, Harris took over. She became the Democratic candidate. She quickly managed to rally the support of both the party leadership and the rank and file. she's gained ground against Trump in both the national polls as well as, more importantly, in the critical swing states. While national surveys provide valuable insights into voter sentiments, the winner of the presidential race is ultimately decided by the state-by-state results of the Electoral College, and there, a few battleground states are likely to be decisive. In the 7 swing states where the 2020 election was closest, that's Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, North Carolina, Michigan, and Nevada, Harris leads Trump 45% to 43% amongst registered voters. It's clear that running against Harris poses a greater challenge for Trump given the shift in these numbers, but certainly, like I said, the margin is very much within the scope of error, and therefore this is not a lead that is insurmountable between now and November. Meanwhile, according to a Fox News poll that was released last week, Harris now holds a lead over former President Trump in 3 out of the 4 key Sun Belt states. That's Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, but in North Carolina, it is Trump who is leading Harris by a percentage or so. So in these 3 states, that's Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, it is Harris who is leading with a 1-point advantage, 48% compared to Trump's 47%, whereas in North Carolina, it's almost a dead heat, but Trump has a slight advantage there. Now, since officially accepting the Democratic nomination last week, Harris has toured battleground states, including Georgia and Pennsylvania, multiple times. These are the 2 biggest states out of the 7 battleground states, and these are both states where Biden had won in 2020, but he was significantly losing support before ending his campaign in July. The Trump-Harris debate, which is scheduled on the 10th of September on ABC News, would be a crucial game changer in these polls, as the narrow margins could shift either way at the end of the debate. Harris will be hoping for the opposite effect of what happened in the last presidential debate when Trump faced off against Biden. That debate performance practically ended Biden's bid for a second term. In this ABC debate coming up next week, Harris has framed this contest as one between a prosecutor and a felon, is hoping that this will be the final nail in Trump's re-election bid.